29 verses on the faith mind, the Shin Ming. Feel free to read along or chant along if you like. The great way is not difficult for those not attached to preferences. When neither love nor hate arises, all is clear and undisguised. Separate by the smallest amount, however, and you are as far from it as heaven is from earth. If you wish to know the truth, then hold on to no opinions for or against anything. To set up what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. When the fundamental nature of things is not recognized, the mind's essential peace is disturbed to no avail. The way is perfect, as vast space is perfect, where nothing is lacking and nothing is in excess. Indeed, it is due to our grasping and rejecting that we do not know the true nature of things. Live neither in the entanglements of outer things, nor in ideas or feelings of emptiness. Be serene and at one with things, and erroneous views will disappear by themselves. When you try to stop activity to achieve quietude, your very effort fills you with activity. So long as you remain attached to one extreme or another, you will never know oneness. Those who do not live in the single way cannot be free in either activity or quietude, in assertion or denial. Deny the reality of things and you miss their reality. Assert the emptiness of things and you miss their reality. The more you talk and think about it, the further you wander from the truth. So cease attachment to talking and thinking, and there is nothing you will not be able to know. To return to the root is to find the essence, but to pursue appearances or enlightenment is to miss the source. To awaken, even for a moment, is to go beyond appearance and emptiness. Changes that seem to occur in the empty world, we make real only because of our ignorance. Do not seek for the truth, only cease to cherish opinions. Do not remain in a dualistic state. Avoid such easy habits carefully. If you attach even to a trace of this or that, right and wrong, the mind essence will be lost in confusion. Although all dualities arise from the one, do not be attached even to ideas of this one. When the mind exists undisturbed in the way, there is no objection to anything in the world. And when there is no objection to anything, things cease to be in the old way. When no discriminating attachment arises, the old mind ceases to exist. Let go of things as separate existences, and mind too vanishes. Likewise, when the thinking subject vanishes, so too do the objects created by mind. The arising of other gives rise to self. Giving rise to self generates others. Knowing these seeming two as facets of the one fundamental reality. In this emptiness, these two are really one, and each contains all phenomena. If not comparing, nor attached to refined and vulgar, you will not fall into judgment and opinion. The great way is embracing and spacious. To live in it is neither easy nor difficult. Those who rely on limited views are fearful and irresolute. The faster they hurry, the slower they go. To have a narrow mind and to be attached to getting enlightenment is to lose one's center and go astray. When one is free from attachment, all things are as they are, and there is neither coming nor going. When in harmony with the nature of things, your own fundamental nature, you will walk freely and undisturbed. However, when mind is in bondage, the truth is hidden, and everything is murky and unclear. And the burdensome practice of judging brings annoyance and weariness. What benefit can be derived from attachment to distinctions and separations? If you wish to move in the one way, do not dislike the worlds of senses and ideas. Indeed, to embrace them fully is identical with true enlightenment. The wise person attaches to no goals, but the foolish person fetters himself or herself. There is one Dharma without differentiation. Distinctions arise from the clinging needs of the ignorant. To seek mind with the discriminating mind is the greatest of mistakes. Rest and unrest derive from illusion. With enlightenment, attachment to liking and disliking ceases. All dualities come from ignorant inference. They are like dreams, phantoms, hallucinations. It is foolish to try to grasp them. Gain and loss, right and wrong. Finally, abandon all such thoughts at once. If the eye never sleeps, all dreams will naturally cease. If the mind makes no discriminations, the 10,000 things are as they are, of single essence. To realize the mystery of this one essence is to be released from all entanglements. When all things are seen without differentiation, the one self-essence is everywhere revealed. No comparisons or analogies are possible in this causeless, relationless state of just the one. When movement stops, there is no movement, and when no movement, there is no stopping. When such dualities cease to exist, oneness itself cannot exist. To this ultimate state, no law or description applies. For the realized mind at one with the way, all self-centered striving ceases. Doubts and irresolutions vanish, and the truth is confirmed in you. With a single stroke, you are freed from bondage. Nothing clings to you, and you hold to nothing. All is empty, clear, self-illuminating, with no need to exert the mind. Here, thinking, feeling, understanding, and imagination are of no value. In this world as it really is, there is neither self nor other than self. To know this reality directly is possible only through practicing non-duality. When you live this non-separation, all things manifest the one, and nothing is excluded. Whoever comes to enlightenment, no matter when or where, realizes personally this fundamental source. This Dharma truth has nothing to do with big or small, with time and space. Here, a single thought is as 10,000 years. Not here, not there, but everywhere, always right before your eyes. Infinitely large and infinitely small. No difference, for definitions are irrelevant, and no boundaries can be discerned. So likewise with existence and non-existence. Don't waste your time in arguments and discussion attempting to grasp the ungraspable. Each thing reveals the one. The one manifests as all things. To live in this realization is not to worry about perfection or non-perfection. To put your trust in the heart mind is to live without separation. And in this non-duality, you are one with your life source. Words, words, the way is beyond language, for in it there is no yesterday, no tomorrow, no today. Thanks, everyone. We will now observe noble silence until the beginning of service.
I'd like to invite our incense lighters, and if the rest of us could turn to page 2, we'll do the incense lighting gatha. In gratitude, we offer this incense throughout space and time to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May it be fragrant as earth herself, reflecting careful efforts, wholehearted awareness, and the fruit of understanding slowly ripening. May we and all beings be companions of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May we awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home. Hello, everybody. I'm happy that we have air conditioning again today. I know I had it back for a couple weeks, but it was pretty hot in here for a little while. Before we start, I do have a few courtesy announcements. So if for any reason you need to step away, we have a space downstairs just through these curtains. There's an extra bathroom there, a water fountain, some extra tables and chairs, also some toys if you get bored. We also have 2 restrooms right through this curtain all the way to the side here. We also ask that if you get up at any point that you go around the back and not around the front of the dais if you can. And usually when we enter or leave the temple space here, we like to give one bow just to kind of help to create a sacred space here. With that, why don't we stand up and do a little greeting of each other? And we're going to turn to page 3. We're doing our opening comments together. I go for refuge to Buddha, my deeply awakened mind, the living source of understanding and compassion, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to Dharma, the path of mindful living, leading to healing, joy, and enlightenment, the way of peace, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the loving and supportive community of practice, realizing harmony, awareness, and liberation, which must be cultivated to be known fully. I am aware that the 3 jewels are within my heart. I vow to realize them. I vow to practice mindful breathing and smiling, looking deeply into things. I vow to understand living beings and their suffering. I vow to cultivate loving kindness and compassion and to practice joy and equanimity. I vow to offer joy to one person in the morning and to help relieve the grief of one person in the afternoon. I vow to live simply and sanely, content with few possessions, and to keep my body healthy. I vow to let go of all worry and anxiety in order to be light and free. I am aware that I owe so much to my parents, teachers, friends, and all beings. I vow to be worthy of their trust, to practice wholeheartedly, so that understanding and compassion will flower, and I can help living beings be free from their suffering. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. May the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha support my efforts. Usually at this point, we would turn to the next page and do the Heart Sutra, and I'm not going to forget about it, but I'm going to invite you to sit down first. While I'm blabbing on about it, let's turn to page 4. The theme of my talk today is on the idea of alchemy, or maybe transformation. As Buddhism left India and came into China, there was a huge mixing of the Chinese Taoism that was very prominent at the time. And one of the core ideas of Taoism of the time was this idea of alchemy, which started, as many of you may know, let's turn lead into gold. But it was much bigger than that. It was this whole idea of purification of elements, and not only of physical elements, but also spiritual mind elements, this sort of purifying and transformation of things. And we find that that has been taken into Buddhism pretty intimately since its mixture into the Chinese culture. And so, in the spirit of transformation, I would like to share a different way to chant the Heart Sutra that is closer to my personal practice of Soto Zen. There are a lot of different implements and things that we use in this tradition, and I don't want them to be sort of this esoteric secret thing. So I'm going to give a short introduction to a few of them. First off, you might notice that I'm holding this stick here. This is called a noi. Usually in Zen temples, it's held by whoever is giving the Dharma talk. It's a scepter that kind of indicates some bit of authority, but it's also sort of known as an extension of our compassion. Sometimes it's referred to as the arm of the Buddha. And also the shape is really unique because it's got sort of the curvature of the spine and with a little hook at the end. Some say that it was meant to sort of imply the shape of mushrooms that are found around in China and Japan, which is kind of cool. Some of them are very beautifully carved, very precise, and some of them are a little bit more wabi-sabi, where they follow the natural knots in the wood. But usually they all have a slight S-curve and a little hook at the end. Some temples have a single noi for the temple, and whoever's giving the talk will hold the scepter. And in some practices, each person, as they're getting ready to give their first talk, makes their own. And that's what I did. I made my own. We had a lot of storms in the last months, if you remember. And after one of the storms, I went outside and one of the branches had fallen from a tree. And I looked at the tree and I saw the perfect S-curve along with the little crick of the branch. I was like, there we go. So I took out a saw and I sawed it out and I carved it out and I found my noi. Some other things that we have the bells, which we're familiar with. But there's more than one way to hit the bell in Zen. And they mean something. When we take the striker and I hit it kind of harshly on the top, that means I'm going to say something alone. Just me, nobody else. You can listen. When I hit it on the side, kind of more traditionally like we do, this is saying we're going to do it all together. So we're going to say it together. Similarly to how we do all the strikes of the bell in the very beginning of the service, just to sort of invite everybody to come in. So again, here's your quiz. Just me. Everybody. Pretty simple? Not too hard? Okay. The second drum or bell that I will introduce is called the Mukugyo. Now, unfortunately, this morning, Mukugyo was missing. I'm not sure where it went. Maybe we'll find it one day. It's actually shaped kind of like a fish. So my theory is that it swam away. But since we are talking about transformation today, I brought a wooden bowl. And I don't know if it'll sound quite as nice, but maybe we'll get somewhere close to it. So, close enough. This is a tempo holding drum. Much like when you go to an orchestra and you see the conductors kind of pacing the tempo, This allows us to all keep the same pace, the same sort of tempo and speed as we're chanting. And that brings us to the chanting itself. Now, when we usually do the Heart Sutra here, it's chanted, but it's really sung. And it's really beautiful. And I love how it allows us to really take time to hold in certain words. We give emphasis on certain words and things like that. And I think it's really great because certain things really pop off. We really hear it and we hold to it. But in the heart of no judgment, every single syllable is equal when we chant in the Zen tradition. And with every hit of the fish drum, we do one syllable. So, for instance, in the first line of the Heart Sutra would be, the Bodhisattva of great compassion from deep practice of prajna paramita. And I want you to notice, how does this change the way that we chant? How does this change the relationship with the chant itself? How does it transform? And so I want to try it together, okay? Are we ready? Okay. And we'll start with the clink on the top, and if we remember, just me. The Maha Prajna Paramita Hidaya Sutra. Together. The Bodhisattva of great compassion from the deep practice of prajna paramita, perceive the emptiness of all five skandhas and delivered all beings from their suffering. O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness no other than form. Form is emptiness. Emptiness form. The same is true of feeling, thought, impulse, and consciousness. O Shariputra, all dharmas are empty. They are not born nor annihilated. They are not defiled nor immaculate. They do not increase nor decrease. So in emptiness, no form, no feeling, no thought, no impulse, no consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or objects of mind, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, no ignorance, nor extinction of ignorance, no old age and death, nor extinction of them, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no cease from suffering, no path to lead out of suffering, no knowledge, no attainment, no realization, for there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva holds on to nothing but prajna paramita. Therefore the mind is clear of any delusive hindrance. Without hindrance there is no fear. Away from all delusive views one reaches final nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future through faith in prajna paramita attain to the highest perfect enlightenment. Know then the prajna paramita is the great Dharani, the radiant peerless mantram, the utmost supreme mantram, which is capable of allaying all pain. This is true beyond all doubt. Proclaim now the highest perfect wisdom, the prajna paramita, Gate, gate, para gate, parasam gate, bodhi svaha, gate, gate, para gate, parasam gate, bodhi svaha, gate, gate, para gate, parasam gate, bodhi svaha. A little different. Thoughts? Yeah. I always felt that Zen services feel a little bit more like you're in an orchestra than if you're at a service. But what does that do to your mind? What does that do to your experience with the sutra? When you don't have time to sit and linger and think, oh, that was a really nice line. It really forces that sort of single-mindedness. The syllable's there, and then you're the next one, and you're constantly right there. It's a very different way, I think, to approach chanting. Not you do have to breathe in there too, but because you have friends around you chanting, when you need to breathe, somebody else won't breathe, and when they need to breathe, you won't breathe. And so there's a little bit of helping each other out in there. I sang in a choir. I was a choir kid. And it's one of the things that you have to learn. And a really great choir can sing an eternal note. They can all sing a single note, and to the audience, they'll never hear a break because you can fade out so gradually that it's not noticed. You take a breath, and you make sure and you sync up with the people around you that when you need to breathe to restart your note, and it comes in so subtly and tapered in that it's not noticeable, that the other people are kind of getting your back. And the same thing when we're going that fast and we're not all breathing together like when we're singing, it's the same kind of idea. So there's also a little bit more of the in syncness. That's a word. It's a word now. I made it up. Just like a school of fish sort of swimming all together as one, I think this kind of way of chanting forces you into that a little bit. So I don't think any way is better or worse. I just think that they're different and there's different lessons to learn from them all. So today I wanted to shape my talk around one of, if not my favorite sutras, I would say probably the most entertaining sutra. And this is called the Vimalakirti Sutra. And I actually pulled this book from the library downstairs. And so if anybody feels intrigued, feel free to take this with you. Just make sure that you sign it out. It is not that long either. So it's not like, like the Lotus Sutra or the Platform Sutra where it's really great for pressing flowers. But this one, not even 200 pages, and that probably includes some commentaries. So I like short books. Most books are too long, in my opinion. There's some really unique and special things about this sutra. Sutra usually, within the terms of Buddhism, means the words of the Buddha. Usually, when we're speaking of sutras, it's something that the Buddha is said to have said. Ironically, there's not a lot of Buddha in this sutra. He shows up at the very beginning and the very end. And in the middle, it's mostly around this guy called Vimalakirti, which is why it's called the Vimalakirti Sutra. And this individual is really interesting because he was not a monk. He didn't study under the Buddha. In fact, he was pretty much just some guy. He was supposed to be like a businessman, kind of rich, lived in the world, as we say. And even though he didn't have a monastic life and didn't study as a part of his life, it was said that despite that, he achieved a enlightenment, and that he was a very wise person. And the story begins when Vimalakirti decides to kind of play a little bit of a trick on the monastic world, knowing that one of the big responsibilities of the monks in the temple was to go and visit people who were very ill, and especially if they were on their deathbed and given their last rites. And Vimalakirti, knowing that he had some special wisdom that he could try to help some of the monks, said that he pretty much faked his own death. he pretended to be very, very ill. I don't think he actually was. I think he was just pulling a fast one on them. And the Buddha heard this, and he went to his Sangha and said, one of the people in the city, Vimalakirti, who is a very prominent person, is very ill, and we need somebody to volunteer to go and visit him. And it said that everybody in the Sangha was very hesitant. Nobody wanted to volunteer because in the past, Vimalakirti had outsmarted and outwitted and out-Dharma just about every single person in the room. Famously, there was a back and forth between one of the head monks and Vimalakirti on the nature of meditation, and he completely just put the monk to shame on this idea. And so everybody in the room was like, I don't want to go see this person because they make me feel like I don't know anything. And we're the monks. We're the ones that are supposed to know this. And it's said that nobody volunteered except for one person, who was Manjushri. And if you know anything about Buddhism, Manjushri is the bodhisattva of wisdom, perfect wisdom. It's supposed to be the embodiment, the personification of all of the infinite wisdom of the Buddhas. And Manjushri, in his wisdom, I guess, said, you know what, I will do it. And when he said he would do it, apparently a whole bunch of other monks said, well, I'll go too, but I'll hide behind Manjushri and let them do all the talking, because I want to see how Manjushri gets bested, basically. Like, the whole, oh, my brother's getting spanked, I'm going to go peek around the corner. So before they left, though, because the Buddha has to have some part of this story, there is this interaction between the Buddha and one of the disciples there named Shariputra. And some of you should know Shariputra because we just said his name. Shariputra is a very interesting character in Buddhism. If any of you are familiar with Christianity or grew up in Christianity, Shariputra is kind of, in my opinion, the Buddhist Thomas, the Buddhist doubting Thomas. In the way that usually when Shariputra shows up, he's usually shown as a person that is sort of putting some doubt in the narrative, or is sitting as the person that doesn't quite get it. In a lot of ways, he's kind of supposed to be the stand-in for us, right? Like, oh, we have all these perfect enlightened beings. We have to have somebody in there who doesn't know what's going on to kind of help tease out some of the wisdom, right? And so whenever you hear Shariputra, that's like, oh, okay, this is a person that doesn't quite get it, so they'll help me. They'll ask the questions I'm too afraid to ask in this story. So before they leave, they're having this conversation about the nature of purity and transformation. And this conversation comes up in the congregation of how do we purify the world? How do we create this idea of what was known as Buddha fields, which I guess is the closest thing to like a heaven that we might have in Buddhism, although it's not necessarily considered to be a separate realm, but a way to sort of, just as we take the lead and transform it to gold, how can we take this world we live in and transform it into this Buddha field? And in so many words, the Buddha says that when the mind is purified, then there also the world will be purified. And of course, all the people arguing couldn't leave it at that. And there becomes this really cool discourse between Shariputra, the guy who doesn't quite get it, and Brahman, who, if anybody knows anything about Hinduism, they're kind of the head honcho of the gods. And I think this is a really cool back and forth, because not a lot of times do we get to have an argument between some guy and God. And I'm sure just about everybody sitting here has been in that position where you're finding yourself arguing with God, like, I don't get it, what's happening? Why is there suffering in the world? And that's basically what this argument is. Shariputra says, That's all fine and dandy, but, why is the world, in so many terms, full of shit? And there's wars and people dying and suffering. And Brahman, standing up says, um, and in some translations, this is literally what he says. He says, the world is shit because your mind is shit, Shariputra. And he says, the reason we have all this suffering in the world is because it's a skillful way to teach us lessons. Because, when we see the suffering of the world and we're experiencing that, that is how we learn compassion. Because in a perfect world, we'd learn nothing. We'd just be sitting on our floating clouds, eating grapes and be happy, and we'd never progress. And they started going back and forth. And maybe it wasn't the most skillful conversation Brahman could have had, because if you have somebody coming up to you and saying, why does my world suck? And your mentor says, it's because you suck. Cool. Was that a good lesson? Did you learn it? And it's at this point that Buddha does something really cool. It said that he lifts a single toe towards the ground, and when he touches the ground, the entire world around them transforms instantly into a giant Buddha field, glimmering with jewels and gold. It said that he opened the eyes of everybody in that room and showed this is the true nature of the universe, which I really like, because I don't feel like this was Buddha saying, yeah, Shariputra, see, I told you so. I think it was Buddha saying, you know what? You're going to argue back and forth with God, but really, it's not something you can say or figure out or come to terms with. You got to see it. And that argument stopped there in its tracks. That transformation. Transformation also is the sort of wordless way to show the light in the world, where arguments and words kind of fall short. So, if you remember, the whole reason this gathering started is because Vimalakirti was ill and needed somebody to go visit him. And so Manjushri, along with, some people hiding behind him, trying to see, I want to see what's going on here, including Shariputra, which Shariputra does not have a good time in this sutra, just to give you a warning. They show up to his house. And even though it is a pretty nice house, because Vimalakirti is doing pretty well for himself, it was nowhere near big enough to fit, Manjushri and all his glory and all the people that came along with him. But with a snap of the finger, Vimalakirti expanded his house into this gigantic Buddha field that they could all fit in, which is the first sort of miracle, saying that maybe this guy's more than he sort of leads on. And they go in and to have this discourse with Vimalakirti. And it kind of goes on how this goes back and forth. But there's one story that I have to make sure that I tell you all, because it's my favorite one. If not, definitely in this sutra, but maybe in all sutras. See, Vimalakirti has, all these really crazy goddesses and deities that are hanging around, because he's also an enlightened being in a sense. And at one point, there's this goddess. And it said that this is a goddess that hung around for 12 years inside of his house. And when seeing Manjushri and all of the disciples coming in, she sort of waved her hands, and all these beautiful petals started raining from the ceiling and landing. And they noticed that on the bodhisattvas, such as Manjushri, they would land and then fall right off. They wouldn't stick. But in all the other disciples, including Shariputra, they landed and they stuck. Became completely covered in petals. And this horrified Shariputra, because one of the rules in the monastery was you're not allowed to decorate your body. And Shariputra tried to rip off the petals and noticed that he couldn't, and started freaking out. And he was like, get these petals off of me. I can't, how come I can't get them off? They're falling off of this guy. How come I can't get them off? And the goddess said, you can't take them off because you're attached to them. The whole idea that he was so concerned that I can't decorate my body meant that he couldn't take the petals off. Whereas the people who weren't attached to this idea of, should I decorate my body? Should I not? There's petals flowing. It's that sort of attachment to this idea, the sort of dogmatic way of looking at things, that basically forced Shariputra to come to terms with this, rule of the temple. Shariputra was not happy because, just like everybody told him, he was getting bested by Vimalakirti. And this is when Shariputra said something probably not nice. He said to the goddess that did the petals, "Well, if you're so enlightened, why are you a woman?" Remember the time that we were talking about. And at that point, instantly, the goddess turned to Shariputra and transformed Shariputra into a woman. I think this is one of my favorite parts of the story, because I feel like Shariputra probably would have done better just not opening his mouth at all. There's more to this story. There's some really cool parts. I think throughout this entire story, there's themes of transformation, and then the everything from physical transformation of space, of ideas, to gender. What does that mean? And it also is really great at sort of putting a lot of the ideas of what's sacred in the culture of Buddhism on its head. We see that it's not the monks who have been studying their entire lives that get it here. It's the monks who are bested. And sometimes it's their own dogma that gets the best of them, where you have this layperson who's never studied a day in his life who finds that they're the one that has all the enlightenment in the story. There's things of putting things on gender roles on its head too, where you see, the women besting the men, and when they complain about it, they turn into women. It's a power that I wish that I had sometimes. One famous part of the story, and I feel like I should at least say this part, because for some people this is the whole point. They finally come to Vimalakirti, sort of asking the same kind of question that they asked the Buddha, who, if you remember, the Buddha answered this question of Pure Lands by demonstration, putting their single toe on the ground and transforming the world into the pure Buddha land. A very similar question was asked of Vimalakirti, and when they all leaned into Vimalakirti to hear the answer, they said nothing. It said that they gave them silence. And with that, there was a realization that happened too. This is a sort of a theme that you'll see in a lot of Zen, that there's not necessarily an idea or a word that will kind of help you get it. It's something that you have to live as an experience. It's something that you have to witness yourself, to see, to get. Sometimes our dogma, our ideas of hierarchy, our wanting to sort of intellectually get it, just get in the way of things. It causes those petals to stick to our skin. But it's a practice. It's an action. It's a realization. It's a seeing. That's kind of the whole point in a lot of this. I really love this idea of transformation, not only as a way to sort of purify and create these pure Buddha lands, but also transformation as a lesson in itself, a sort of wordless lesson. I guarantee everyone in this room has learned more from seeing a transformation, whether it's in yourself or in somebody else, than you ever have from reading a sutra. And you are going to teach a better lesson through that transformation in yourself than you ever will through your words. So many little parts of Buddhism are about this sort of alchemy, changing the lead into gold. I told you at the very beginning about the noi, the stick, and there's more to it than that. The noi didn't start out as a sort of sacred scepter that we kind of hold to show our compassion authority. The noi originally was a back scratcher. It was a back scratcher that you would hold, and somebody picked up this back scratcher and said, you know what? A back scratcher is a symbol of compassion because it extends our arms, and not only can we scratch the backs of others further than we probably would, I have short arms, but now I can scratch Shungusu's back. But it also extends our own compassion towards ourselves, that itch in the middle of your back that you could never reach. Through the noi, you can. And so when we hold the noi, which is nothing more than a simple back scratcher, we hold a symbol of that extending of the compassion, and the lead of the back scratcher is transformed into the gold of the scepter. And so hopefully you will learn nothing from the words that I said today, but you will learn everything from the transformations that you see around you. So with that, why don't we prepare ourselves for a little bit of meditation? we're going to do joys and concerns, but I did want to say one last thing on the Vimalakutri. Can't say it. It's not super relevant, but I just thought it was cool, so I'm going to tell you. So one of the more famous translations, not this one, but a different one, was done by a very cool Buddhist scholar named Robert Thurman. He's still alive, older gentleman. But in a small world moment, he's actually the father to actress Uma Thurman, who is the mother to actress Mia Hawke. So if you've ever watched Stranger Things, Mia Hawke is in Stranger Things. She's really cool. And then Uma Thurman, if you are a 90s kid like me, you will know movies such as Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction. It's pretty cool. So, yeah, their father/grandfather is a really pretty kick-ass Buddhist scholar who translated the sutra. So, small world. Also, he has a glass eye, which is kind of cool. Now I'm never going to be able to see Kill Bill and have like eye patch or thinking. I don't know. Anyway, let's do some joys and concerns. I don't know if we have a microphone ready. So if you have anything going great or not going so great, and you'd like to bring it up, let's do it. So if you want to raise your hand.
Thank you. My name's Dwight. I have a joy. Last week has not been very good, but I have been surrounded by really good people and I've received a lot of really good blessings. So I just wanted to say that, I guess.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anna. I just wanted to say that a request that we could hold space for anyone who has lost a pet. This is my first summer without my dog, and I'm feeling a lot of sadness today. And also for anyone who's just going through a lot of crap in life, let's hold them in our space too. Thank you.
Hello, Sangha. My name is Sean, and kind of a joy and a concern is that my work situation is coming to an end. But I am very much looking forward to taking some time. I plan to take August and just get out, do some hiking, and center myself. So.
Do we have anything online? No? Okay. I have a joy. And I'm going to put Chungosu on the spot. They don't know this yet. I recently took on 2 students, Nasanskara and Chungosu. And the last weekend, 2 weekends ago, I took a trip to the fabric store, Field and Fabric. It's fantastic. And we did a little bit of shopping because a big part of the Soto Zen tradition is the sewing of our robes. And the first thing we sew is called a rakasu, which you may have seen me wear. It kind of looks like a bib. People always ask me, why are you wearing a bib? And for the sake of transformation here, the theme of the talk, it's said that when the Buddha made their first robe, they went and they collected scraps of fabric, and it was like discarded fabric, so like dirty rags, things like that, and sewed them together, and then dyed them in saffron, which is supposed to have like a antibacterial effect, and which is why you usually see the Buddha in like these really like kind of orangey saffrony robes. It was because the dye changed them that color because it's trying to get all the gross stuff off of it, I guess. But I think there's a little bit of that alchemy there too, of transforming these discarded rags into the robe of the Buddha. And in our practice, that's one of the first things that we do. And in the same way that Buddha took these scraps of fabric and sewed it into a robe, we take fabric and we cut it up into these little strips and then quilt together our first robe, which is the rakusu. And Changosu, I have for you a bundle of fabric with some instructions. And also have a little Santa bag full of stuff here. A spool of thread. And so this is the very beginning of Changosu sewing their very first robe. Which will be great because you get to put into practice what we talked about today. So much of the study of Soto Zen is a wordless practice. I learned so many more lessons from the sewing of my robes than I ever did from any sutra. Sort of those transformations without a word spoken, right? And so that's my joy because I hope that that same lesson that's been passed down 84 times will be passed down to you. So in Asanskara. So if we don't have any other joys or concerns, speak now or forever hold your peace. Then why don't we take a few moments just to kind of hold that all in, okay? I have a couple closing announcements before we go on to our closing sutras. I was just handed the July announcements, even though we still have a couple days left of June. But I'll go off of the July announcements. We have our online meditation group that meets Wednesdays from 6 to 6:45 p.m. And that's over Zoom. And you can contact Upaya, Jeff, for more information on that. They've taken that over for the summer. We also have our next Grand Rapids Buddhist Temple board meeting on Sunday, July 20th. And that'll be after the service at 11:30 to 1 p.m. You can join in person or over Google Meet, and everybody's invited to attend. I also know, too, that they are actively looking for more members to join the board. So if you feel like you want to give to the temple and more of the sort of behind-the-scenes glue that makes everything work seems to be the place for you, I would really encourage you to just come to the meeting and come with some questions and see, what you can do to help, because we could use some help. And I think there's a lot of you that have some gifts and talents that I think would be really well served in this way. We also have a introduction to meditation from the Tibetan perspective, and that is Saturday, August 9th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. here at the temple. So there'll be a half-day retreat. It'll be an introduction to meditation from the Tibetan perspective, and it will offer practical techniques for cultivating mindfulness and breath awareness, and a comprehensive exploration of foundational meditation practices. And the class is recommended as a prerequisite to all other classes and trainings at the temple. And you can contact Igesu for more information about that. We also have our Buddhist-based recovery meetings. Those are Mondays at 6:30 p.m. Here at the temple. Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. at the Alano Club, and Fridays at 10:05 a.m. And that will be either at the temple or via Zoom. And then I have one other announcement that I need to probably email Kent to put it on here. I always forget. I'm getting better. We do have our Buddhist mutual aid group that we have started here at the temple. We are looking to use our lessons in the Dharma to help outreach and help the people in our community. And we meet in person on the second Sunday of every month. So not next week, but the week after that. We also have a Discord, and feel free to ask me any questions or just show up that day, and that'll be right after the service on that day. Do we have any other announcements? Yes.
Appreciate it. And you can leave the chairs.
Okay. Thank you. And for those online, you don't have to do anything. It's about clearing the temple. So you lucked out. Or maybe you're missing out on this opportunity. Depends how you look at it. With that, why don't we stand and do our closing gathas? You can find those on page 6. For all unskillful action ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thoughts, now I atone for them all. Vast is the robe of compassion, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Buddhist teachings for the benefit of all sentient beings. All beings, one body, I vow to liberate. Endless blind passion, I vow to uproot. Dharma gates without number, I vow to enter. The great way of Buddha, I vow to attain. And if we could, one side, turn to the other side, and give one last closing vow. Thank you. I hope to see a few of you downstairs for some tea and some chatting. Also, I'll leave this out. We only have one copy, so first come, first serve. If anybody would like to read more about the sutra we talked about today, you can go down to the library and write it out. Oh, also, spoiler alert, Shariputra did get his gender back. So at the end.